Hi everyone. Hopefully you're having a good week. I'm bringing you this video and I'm sorry that it's with this camera sitting in your face, but I didn't know enough to know that the video, I can't pause it if it's in the mode where it's facing me. So this is just a short part of this video. Anyway, as you know from the beginning of the program, I had let you know that a lot of our lessons were going to be done through video, through email, through written word, some recordings, and also some telephone conferencing. So this video I did feel like was best performed, or this lesson I felt was best performed by a video. Last thing in the world I want is for you to have to sit here and watch my mug the whole time. So there will be other visuals that we'll be able to do, but just relax and get comfortable, and hope you like what we're talking about today. So we cannot talk well about food until we actually talk about what's going on with the actual food that we eat. As we go along, you're going to find a lot of times that a lot of issues that you might have with food are kind of not your fault. This isn't to give you a free pass or anything, but I do want you to know that we are being sabotaged by the food industry to develop a palette of processed food. So just wanted to go over a little bit about food and the history of processed food. As you know, processed food is any kind of food substance that is processed or changed, either with chemicals, with additives, with preservatives, or even sometimes toxins. So processed food before the 1950s wasn't around very much. The only people that kind of got processed food were soldiers, unfortunately. But in the 1950s, things kind of changed. As you remember, family lives kind of changed. Some of you are too young to remember this, but grocery stores were not the big superstores that we have right now. The grocery stores were more like corner mom and pop stores and just basically had the bare essentials. And there was usually not a lot of processed food or canned food there at the time. Right now, if you think about our supermarket and you think about the parameter of the supermarket, which is mostly the fruits and vegetables and bakery and meat, those were the areas of what most corner grocery stores offered to people. So now with the invention of the supermarket that came about in the late 50s, early 60s, the whole idea was that there was a lot of inventory that was put all on the shelves in the grocery stores, and many people didn't know how they were going to be able to preserve all of that food. They were throwing away so many huge amounts of food, and the food companies, the manufacturers of our food and the distributors of our food had to really quickly find out a way to preserve food the best that they could so that there wouldn't be so much waste. So in order to do that, they started to put preservatives in our food that would keep the shelf life longer. You would think that all of that would be tested and made sure was safe for human consumption. Unfortunately, it was not. So there's a lot of things that were added into our food. In adding them, there's also a lot of vital ingredients that were taken out of our food. Things that our bodies really need. For instance, in bread. Bread naturally was made with a lot of potassium. Potassium is an essential ingredient to our human health. We have to have potassium in our systems. But they removed the potassium from the bread because they believed that that was what was limiting the shelf life. And it does limit the shelf life because it's real, but they were trying to extend the shelf life. So that was taken out. And to this day, it's pretty much taken out of your packaged bread. The second thing was that modern families kind of started changing in 50s and in the 60s. More women were going to work. More women had access to cars. And they were busier. They weren't just like the June Cleaver that was home waiting for the family to come in and who had been cooking their meal the whole entire day. So convenience for modern families definitely played a role in processed food. So the more things that they could put in a box, one step, two steps, three steps, pour this together, add this together, was what was really popular. And a lot of people bought it and bought into it and started. In my personal family that I grew up in, I would say that my family started probably late 60s, early 70s, really lining our cabinets with processed food. At the time, the people thought that it was good for us, that it was food, and then of course they wouldn't put anything in our food that was bad for us. I'm going to pause the video for a second. So this brings about a whole new set of problems. If you go back and trace when certain diseases of our modern day pretty much started, they weren't heard of before, you can trace it back to the introduction of processed food. And that has been documented, very, very well documented through the medical community. So some problems with processed food. If you think about the fact that our bodies are very much the same as they were when we were first created, meaning when mankind came to be in existence, our human bodies have not changed very much. In fact, they work exactly the same as they did then, and they respond to the same things as they did back, let's say, in caveman days. So our bodies were made with the same digestive system, in caveman days as we have right now. When a body gets something inside of it, whether it is ingested or poked or whatever way that it makes it inside of our body's natural response to that foreign substance is inflammation. It sends inflammation to the area to protect it. It sends inflammation knowing that there's a danger zone and something, kind of like if you think about Lost in Space and that robot, it does not compute. The body is saying, I don't know what's got it. It does not compute with me. So when a body doesn't recognize a substance, it doesn't know what to do with it. It will go through the digestive system, but the digestive system doesn't recognize it, and so it doesn't properly digest it whatsoever. Add that in with the extra inflammation that it adds onto your body because your body is responding to foreign substances, and you can see why chronic inflammation is a major cause to people's health in this day and age. Actually, most people walk around with an extra amount of inflammation with them every single day, and it attacks our cells, and inflammation is one of the biggest causes of disease. So when the body doesn't recognize something, doesn't know really what to do with it, processed food also numbs and changes our taste buds. So it was actually designed that way in many circles. It was designed that way. Take a bag of Doritos, and why can't you just eat one or two? It's because all of the processing of that, if you want to call it chip, has all of these chemicals inside of it, and most of them are just to make us continue to eat more of them. Since the processed food changes our taste buds become they don't want real food. They don't like the taste of real food. Real food doesn't please them because you're getting all the false food and all of the ingredients in the false food that are numbing your taste buds. So that's why it's sometimes when you start on the path to eating real food, you'll notice a definite difference in your taste buds. Since I've been eating real food for almost the last 4 years, if I eat something that's processed, I can't stand the taste of it. That's how things change as you change with real food and processed food. There's ingredients that are added into processed food. I just have listed one of them, but it's like MSG. And that is to make us want more, as I talked about earlier with the Doritos. There's also toxins put in some of these ingredients and put in some of the processed food. And we don't even know what they are. We don't know what they do to us. We have no idea how our body responds to them. So those ingredients alone that are added into food can become a big problem for us. The other thing is that when you're eating processed food, many processed foods have little to no nutrients. So let's say that you eat an entire meal of processed food. Let's just take a McDonald's meal, for instance. I know you don't want me to pick on your McDonald's, but let's say you have French fries, you have a cheeseburger, and you have a Coke. So on that whole meal, there is not one real food in there. The meat isn't real. I mean, you might have a slice of a little piece of lettuce on it, but they don't even put that on unless you ask for it. So nothing in that meal is processed. So you ingest a whole entire meal that you think is food, and your body has no use for any of it because there are no nutrients in that food. Since there's no nutrients in that food, your body is still starving for nutrients. It still needs, every 4 or 6 hours, it needs nutrients, and it's not getting it. So it is going to continue to make you crave food. It's going to continue to make you want to eat, and you're going to feel hungry within a couple hours, if not sooner, because your body is asking you for nutrients. It's very important. We're going to go into this with a lot more detail throughout the next 6 months, but I just wanted to give you a basis of the problems with processed food. We need to pay attention to what we're eating, because just like if you see something going bad in your refrigerator and you think, we're going to eat this tonight because we don't want to go to waste, because we don't like to throw away food. When you put something in your body that's not real food and that your body cannot use any because it either has little or no nutrients in it, it's the same thing as if you were throwing it in the garbage can. The only difference is that you're throwing it into your body and using your body as the garbage pan for it, and waiting hopefully that it all comes back out the other end, but most of the time it doesn't. So it's very unkind, to feed your body with processed food. Please don't ever think that the government would never allow any of this bad stuff to be put in their food. That is not the case. I wish that was the case, but they absolutely do not care. And unless somebody brings a case against some particular substance, you aren't going to see much change in that. The food companies and the manufacturers kind of rule the roost when it comes to what's going into our food. So please don't think that the government is protecting you and that they won't allow anything bad to be put into your food. Pause the video for just a second. So I took some things out of my own pantry, and I can tell you that I live, in a household with 2 other people. And of course, I eat very clean, but I can't say that they do. They know how to eat clean, but they don't usually choose to eat clean. So when you ask, why is Maureen eating this? There's nothing on this table that I eat. But anyway, I wanted to show you, and unfortunately, my video doesn't let me do close-ups, or if it does, I have no idea how to do it. But this is a can of pork and beans. Probably everybody can go to their closet and have a can of pork and beans in there. So what I want to tell you is the ingredients are the prepared beans. So when it says prepared, we have no idea really what went into the preparation of those beans. It contains water, sugar, cornstarch, modified tomato paste, pork, vinegar, flavorings, which always be afraid of flavorings because you really don't know what they're putting in there. They just label it as flavorings, onion powder, and paprika. So this is basically something that was taken good, which is beans. Beans are exceptionally good and as the can says, high in fiber. Good that they're high in fiber, but they took a real food and they made it into a processed food. And by putting all of those extra ingredients in it, it has made basically this pork and beans has very little to no nutrition in it whatsoever. Then we go to grape jelly. Now I know that you know that there's a lot of sugar in jelly. I am sure. But you do see that the front of this, has the picture of grapes on it. It's very enticing because it has the picture of grapes. But basically in here, it has Concord grape juice. It does not say that it actually has Concord grapes in it. And it also has high fructose corn syrup, which is basically a food additive poison. And I mean, it really is. It has fruit pectin, citric acid, and sodium citrate. So there's 9 ingredients to this. So this is a very processed food, not to mention how much sugar it has in it. And unfortunately, that's a staple item of what we feed to our kids. And I did it, so can't, I'm just as bad. Here we've got the dip, queso dip. I used to love this dip. But you see on the front it says made with real cheese. So I go to look at the ingredients on the back, and it says water, non-fat milk, Monterey Jack cheese. Okay, it does have that. Then it's got soybean oil, salt enzymes, maltodextrin, modified cornstarch, jalapeno peppers, and sodium phosphate, xanthium gum. I have no idea what that is. Lactic acid, sodium citrate, datum, artificial color, and it says sorbic acid, which is a preservative. So this has 17 ingredients on, and of which none of them are real food. Our wheat crackers. Some people choose wheat crackers over regular crackers, thinking that they're more healthy. Here's what our ingredients are. Enriched flour. And just to let you guys know, enriched flour is processed food. Wheat flour, all flour is processed. Whether it's rice flour, wheat flour, barley flour, whatever flour, it's all processed food. In fact, you'll hear me say sometimes that 1 tablespoon of flour is equivalent to 28 pieces of bread. And so if you eat something that has that much flour in it, your body is interpreting it as it's receiving 28 pieces of bread. And that's way too much. So that your body is going to it's not going to be able to use all of that. But this has also 17 more ingredients in it. Let's see, soda and our calcium phosphate, high fructose corn syrup, sodium sulfite, soy lectin, natural flavor. So that doesn't mean that it comes from a natural flavor. They have added a natural flavor in there. Very, very highly processed food. And here's one of my favorites, which is the shredded cheese. And without telling you all of the ingredients in it, I just because there's 17 ingredients in this also. So this, I don't know if you can see this, but this is just your regular Fiesta cheese blend, Monterey Jack. Used to be one of my favorites. But I wanted to point out this one ingredient that out of the 17, it says, let's see, potato starch and powdered cellulose added to prevent caking. So in order for your cheese to look this pretty and to stay this pretty in the refrigerator, that additive was added into it just to make it that way. So that's also very highly processed food. But here we've got some real food. We've got oatmeal, which I eat every day. And what's the ingredients in oatmeal? Whole grain rolled oats. Nothing else. So that's a real food. Here we've got yogurt. This is something I eat every day too. And in this ingredients, it says cultured, pasteurized organic milk. Yes, pasteurized is processing. However, it has the vitamin D in it, and then it's got the 4 strands of bacteria that it lists on there because yogurt is a good probiotic. That's all it has in it. So minimal processing to that. Then we've got brown rice. Here's what brown rice, and this is the minute rice, so some people might think that's not even good for you. Here's the ingredients of the brown rice: pre-cooked pan. I'm sorry, my eyes aren't very good. Parboiled whole grain brown rice. White rice, people, right? White rice is a processed food, but brown rice is not. So that kind of gives you a kind of a scenario about the processed food. I know that you're thinking right now, there's no way. I have no taste for real food. And by the way, real food is anything that comes from God. So it's kind of easy to know what it is. Like macaroni and cheese is not something that God made, whereas carrots are. So I think as we go over the next 6 months, you're going to learn more and more about which foods are real and which foods are processed. I can tell you that when I was first introduced to the problems of processed food, it was way before it was when I was still very overweight and eating very poorly. And I read a book by Dr. Bragg, and Dr. Bragg is the one with the Bragg apple cider vinegar. I don't know if you're familiar with that. And in his book, it said, and it gave in great detail all of the benefits of eating real food as opposed to processed food. And I remember when I finished reading the book, instead of it, I really, really wanted to eat real food, but I knew I couldn't because I was so tied to the taste buds and the numbness of my taste buds that I knew I was never going to be able to do it. And it made me really, really sad. But now I go back and read the book and I feel really good because I know that that's what I eat. Just want you to spend the next week kind of being aware of, pay attention, to what you're eating and be aware of how much of your meals is real food or processed food. I'm not going to ask you to turn that into me, but I am going to talk to you about it when we have our coaching calls. So if you could just even write in a journal, or if you're still doing your food journal, even though you're not having to turn it into me starting on Sunday, please just try and make an awareness of what your attitude is about processed food versus real food, and about how much of your plate is processed and real. So I'll be talking to you soon. Please call me with any questions or problems or issues. And again, I apologize for the quality of the video. It will be better when I do my real program because I'll have a more professional videographer doing it. So thank you for your patience with it. And I'm signing off for right now. Have a great week.